Welcome to LA Rams Central. This is the 85th episode. I'm Anthony.
And I'm Eric.
And we're back to bring you your comprehensive coverage of the NFL and postseason football. So go ahead and cue the taps music because my Super Bowl predictions are officially both now dead and buried.
At least you didn't pick the Giants.
Well, there is that. That's very true. As far as the Saturday games go, not really a lot to talk about. Me and Eric kind of talked about that. We'll start with the Falcons and Eagles, and since I'm doing an NFC game on Sunday, Eric, I'll let you go ahead and take this one over, and you kind of cover what you want. Well, you know what? I'll take that one since I picked the Falcons. So I only lost one game this weekend. I went 2-2 on Wild Card weekend and 3-1 championship weekend, which makes me 5-3 now. For the postseason, which isn't too shabby, 8 games in. I really felt like Atlanta got away from what made them dangerous in this game. The things they did against the Rams, we didn't see against Philadelphia. We didn't see a conscious effort to focus on the running game. We didn't see a real conscious effort to get the ball to Julio Jones. At the end of the game, and I know you're going to comment on this, Eric, you did such a good job of telling me why that last play of the game that Atlanta ran was stupid, and I agree with you from a coaching standpoint, but I'll let you break down the X's and O's of that one, which is a little bit role reversal for you, but I'll let you explain that. But as a coach, you cannot tell me out of a timeout that was the best you had in your entire playbook. Now, when you coach, you have 4 sets of plays. Okay, you have what we short yardage calls, long yardage call, medium yardage call. Then you have what you call your standard call and your 2-point conversion call. Now, considering the Falcons were, correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, they were at the 2-yard line?
They were at the 2-yard line.
You do your best 2-point conversion play or your best short yardage play. You decide during the timeout which one Matt Ryan's most comfortable with, and you run it. And you're not going to convince me that that's what Atlanta ran. And that's been the problem with Sarkisian going back to his days at USC. He tries to put the ball in his best player's hands, but he does it with the most ineffective of plays in the playbook. And it's been a problem for Atlanta all year long. How many times this year, through the course of this season, have we questioned Atlanta Falcons' offensive play calling at the end of games in the fourth quarter inside the 10-yard line? Is this like the 6th time this year?
At least. More than a handful, I can tell you that.
Yeah, it's been ridiculous. And really, there's not much to talk about this game because it came down to Atlanta blew it. The Eagles didn't win this game. Atlanta blew it. Now, I'm going to give credit to Nick Foles in the second half. He was lights out. But it shouldn't have mattered. If the Falcons played a standard game, they would have walked out of there with a victory. But credit to Eagles. They played great defense. They kept their team in the game. They did what they had to do. Nick Foles played a great second half. And, this is an underdog no one wants to play in Philadelphia. You look at the offense, you go, oh yeah, let's get the Eagles. But then you got to remember, you got 11 guys on defense that you're lining up against is going to beat you. So that's a tall order. So I give a lot of credit to the Philadelphia Eagles, but the Falcons blew this game. Eric, take it away.
The Falcons had a little bit of Seattle-itis. Now, it wasn't in the biggest game of the year, which is the Super Bowl, but Seattle threw in about the exact same location in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, and we all know how that turned out. I am kind of comparing the two, not as high of a level as the game was, but Atlanta had a brain fart. Sarkisian had a brain fart, okay? You do not roll out to your right or to your left and cut the field in half. You need room. You need space. Let Julio Jones get double teamed. It's okay. You have Austin Hooper. You have Mohamed Sanu. You have Tevin Coleman. And I don't know how many of you guys knew this, but Devonta Freeman had 2 ligament strains in his knee. I want to say the MCL and the PCL. It's not an ACL injury. So his movement, whether forward, backward, or side to side, is somewhat limited. And you can kind of see it throughout the game that he wasn't as explosive that he had been if he was healthy. Matt Ryan is an all-world quarterback. He had a phenomenal year last year, followed up with a decent year this year, got the Falcons into the playoffs, got him a win in the playoffs. When it came down to it, he just didn't make the play because what I thought was an atrocious play call severely limited the Falcons. And there was even a timeout before the play even took place. Mm-hmm. So they could reevaluate and come up with something different. But no, they stuck with the exact same thing. Philadelphia knew it was coming. And even though Jones slipped, he was really close. And if Jones would have caught that ball while he was jumping as high as he could in air, he would have came down out of bounds. It would have been a miraculous catch, but he would have came down out of bounds. I guarantee it, because his foot was already out.
Yeah.
So use your other weapons. Get everybody else involved. Use Jones as a decoy to where Davis is on one side of the field by himself, but you have the safety somewhat rolling over. And I know it's 2 yards, but if Matt Ryan, saw an opening, he could always take off and score himself. That's all they needed. But they shot themselves in the foot. Give Philly credit because they played hard, they played tough. They got the job done. They scored a touchdown, missed the extra point, kicked 3 field goals. That's how they got 15. And I don't know what else to say. I mean, they embrace the underdog role really well, and we see what's going on in Philadelphia right now in regards to it. So they have an extra day to prepare for the Vikings. I'm not so sure how that's going to benefit them, if at all. But it's going to be a great game in the championship game, and we're going to preview that. But I thought Atlanta didn't play the best as they could, considering the week that they just came off of.
Yeah. I agree. The other game was New England, Tennessee. Take it away.
New England, Tennessee. Well, I've said this this is going to be my third time saying it. Tennessee got on the board first. They scored last. Problem is, they gave up 5 touchdowns in between. Mariota on that first drive looked unstoppable. Hitting his receivers. Delaney Walker was huge in that first quarter. And then, I don't know what happened. Mariota, let me go back to that first drive as well. Mariota actually took off and ran a couple of times, too. Picked up a couple key first downs en route to throwing the touchdown to Corey Davis. And Anthony, I don't know if I brought this up on the show, but Corey Davis wears number 84. You know who he reminds me of. Another wide receiver that wore number 84 in the AFC.
Give me a minute. Shit, no.
I'll give you a hint. He played for the Oilers. He also played for the Browns.
Webster Slaughter?
Webster Slaughter, who reminds me of him. I don't know why. It's just the way that he plays.
Wow.
And Webster Slaughter was no slouch.
No, he was good.
He was a very underrated wide receiver. I think Corey Davis is coming into his own, and he's going to be better.
Wow. Well, that'll be...
Give credit to New England. They came out. They were down early, but that's what happens when the opposing team wins the coin toss, takes the football the length of the field. And New England just tankered down after that. Brady was his surgical self, 337 yards. They had a run game with Dion Lewis. He had 62. I mean, he had the second least amount of rushing yards out of all 4 leaders, the leaders of all 4 games. But Amendola showed up 112, and that's where it's going to be key for New England right there, is having that short pass game. And we'll get into that when we talk about the Jaguars and Steelers, but also when we preview the AFC Championship game, because I think it's going to be huge in that. But Brady doesn't take a lot of shots downfield, but he's got Brandon Cooks to stretch the field. So when he's throwing the ball 6 yards when he needs 7 on second down, and they need that 1 yard, they have the whole playbook open to them. When they're 3rd and 7 and he throws 8 yards because Amendola, goes down after the catch, it's hard to defend sometimes. And the only way to defend Brady, and Tennessee did not do a good job on it, is to hit him early and hit him often.
Pressure.
Somehow, somebody got to take Gronk out, but that's easier said than done. Gronk is just a beast, and You know, he pushed his way down the field against Tennessee, and it showed.
Pressure up the A-gap. That's how you beat Tom Brady. Period. Pressure up the A-gap and contain the end. So he can't step up and he can't step around. It's the only way to beat Tom Brady. He doesn't like pressure up the A-gap. It bothers him and it rattles him. I don't know if he's afraid for his knees or what, but he's very uncomfortable with A-gap pressure. Let me show you the difference between Eric and I and everybody else that covers the National Football League. This is how I feel. I am so excited to see the Patriots in another championship game. It is so good for football and so great to see Tom Brady and New England in it yet again. I sure hope they go to the Super Bowl because the NFL loves the Patriots. Could you tell my enthusiasm? Was it vibrating through? We're going to get into why New England is so viled. I'm not going to blame New England for beating the pants off Tennessee, and I'm not going to sit here and call Tennessee a bad football team. You play the schedule you're given, and the Titans, like it or not, are one of the best teams in the AFC this year. The problem is the AFC this year. And we've talked about this ad nauseum all year long. If I'm a fan of Jacksonville, of New England, of Pittsburgh, by the way, I called it, of Tennessee, I wasn't necessarily wanting to go to the Super Bowl this year because I genuinely don't believe anybody in the AFC could beat the NFC playoff field, ranging from the Carolina Panthers and the LA Rams all the way to Philadelphia. Yes, I know they have Nick Foles. And the Case Keenum-led Minnesota Vikings. I just don't feel like the AFC has had enough gritty exposure. Because what you have in the AFC is you have two aging giants and the field. And it's not parity when you have two great teams and 14 crap teams. And I don't mean any disrespect to Jacksonville or Tennessee. But is anyone really going to be surprised if Tennessee, Jacksonville, Kansas City, and Buffalo don't make the playoffs next year? I'm not. I won't be surprised at all if all four of those teams were a one-year wonder. So it's very competitive, and anyone can win on any given Sunday in the AFC. And if I'm a coach coming into the National Football League, I don't want anything to do with the NFC. Get me an AFC head coaching job stat. I think that's why Marvin Lewis decided to stay in Cincinnati. He might still have an opportunity here. So I don't fault the situation. It is what it is. And New England beat the pants off of a bad football team. Bad in comparison. But the Titans themselves, they are one of the best teams in the AFC this year. But again, I reiterate, the problem is the AFC this year. So New England's in the championship game. And contrary to popular belief, it's not Tom Brady versus Blake Bortles because Blake Bortles does not play defense. It's going to be Tom Brady versus A.J. Bouye and Ramsey and Campbell and insert Jaguar defender here. That's what they're up against. So it is what it is. New England's there, and they got there in commanding fashion. Now, to the other AFC game. Jacksonville and Pittsburgh. Now, I'm going to let you start. But, Eric, there were two factors on why I was never a believer in the Pittsburgh Steelers all year long. I didn't feel like they played anybody, and I don't feel like Mike Tomlin has control of his football team. And he hasn't all year long. From the handling of Villanueva with the protest all the way to Antonio Brown, J.J. Smith-Schuster's little fallout with Martavius Bryant, and everything in between. He never had control of this football team, and the Steelers at times played like a team with no leadership. Just a lot of talent, and they could outperform the other team because of the sheer talent that they have on the roster, which is not a recipe for usually a playoff team. But in today's football, in today's AFC, all you have to be is talented because the rest of the conference is so untalented. So you have it. Take it away.
Earlier you said you started talking about you mentioned Jacksonville, and you're like, oh, called it. Let's just put on for the record that I called it first because you were surprised at my calling, so I'll take credit for that.
Yeah, but I was going with them all the way, and you know it.
What's that?
I was going with them all the way, and you know it.
Well, that's the beauty part of this, because sometimes you don't know which way I'm going. But anyways.
Okay, go ahead. You saying I'm a little transparent?
Listen, there's only two teams in the history of the NFL that have gone to Pittsburgh, beat them in the regular season, and gone back and beat them in the postseason. The 07 Jaguars and the 17 Jaguars.
Wow.
It won't happen again until 2027 Jaguars. It might be in London, though.
Yeah.
Anyways, this game was very strange, especially at Pittsburgh's offensive side of the ball. I knew they were going to give up points. Listen, I called Jacksonville winning by 3. I called them to win 20-17. I thought there would be a little bit more defense in this game. Lo and behold, Jacksonville wins 45-42. And would you believe it that a defensive score was actually pretty much the difference in this game? And because Jacksonville didn't turn the ball over, Pittsburgh did. Then held the ball too long. Fumble. Touchdown. Scoop and score. I mean, guys, I don't know if I'll ever get you to believe me, but I was yelling at my TV at this game and rooting my head off for the Jaguars in this game. You have no idea. That's how confident I was in them to win this game. I just like the way they play defense. They have two great corners. Either one of them can remind you of a young Charles Woodson. They're that good. Or even a young Deion Sanders. They're that good. Maybe even better.
Yeah.
But Bortles was Tom Brady light. And I don't want to say light because I'm not going to put Bortles and Brady in the same category. But he was triple light than Tom Brady. Because if you look at the blueprint, what did he do? Screen passes and short routes. He threw the ball downfield a few times. He connected on a 45-yard pass, which was enormous for the Jaguars. Leonard Fournette took over the first quarter. He wasn't the same after his injury. Came back. And, just wasn't as explosive, and you could see that. So, hopefully he's right. He got into a little bit minor car accident this week after practice, but he's okay. But with Jacksonville, they're doing it with a lot of no-names on offense. And, Leonard Fournette is a household name. Don't get me wrong. But when you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and you put up points and you're in the top half of the highest scoring teams in the league, Anthony, I don't know if you knew this. I don't know if it's been talked about out in Arizona or not. Ben Roethlisberger on 4th and short is 18 for 19 in getting the first down on 4th and short. Hasn't done it since 2014. He said, and I quote, "If I audibled out and did a QB sneak, I'd get in trouble." Well, how are you going to get in trouble? Are you going to get fined? But what's more important, getting the first down and potentially a win, or getting fined $5,000 in kangaroo court?
Yeah.
Give me a break. The two fourth down calls, fourth and one, I believe both of them were 4th and 1. A toss, light. Come on, Jacksonville's defense is too fast for that. And then on the pass, there was a little bit of a hold, but you know what? They call a lot of ticky-tack stuff, and the personal foul misconduct where one of the Jacksonville Jaguar cornerbacks, I think it was Ramsey, was shoved out of bounds and his shoulder went into, I want to say, Le'Veon Bell, and he got a 15-yard penalty. That's crap. That is absolute crap. When you're getting pushed and you hit a guy and the refs can't see it because they're retarded, the refs are trying to give Pittsburgh the game away. I thought Jacksonville had two big blown coverages, and that was both on the fourth down touchdown passes.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering how Martavis Bryant could get behind that defense. And, tip your hat to Antonio Brown. He is one of the best wide receivers to ever play this game. He's not the best. He's getting up there. He'll never surpass Jerry Rice. I don't think we'll ever see another wide receiver like Jerry Rice. But, he's making a name for himself. And he'll be up amongst the leaders when he retires. But it's just him going up against the ball and not being 100% with his calf. He made some big plays that kept the Steelers in the game. I know Ben threw one pick and had a fumble. But other than that, over a 450-yard day. So they were doing everything they could to keep the team in the hunt for the win, and they were close. They just had no defense, and I knew without Ryan Shazier plugging up the middle that the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to fall short.
Yep.
And I was perusing Twitter, I was on Facebook, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, it's such an upset!" And I wrote this on Facebook, and I quote, "If you think Jacksonville beating Pittsburgh is an upset, you haven't watched football all year."
Yeah.
Because anybody could see the way Jacksonville's defense was, and I guarantee you everybody thought of Pittsburgh's past and how they played. It's a new Pittsburgh team. They're not the same as before. They don't have Greg Lloyd and Kevin Green. They don't have Joey Porter when he was in his prime. And I'm not saying he was great, but that defense was better. They don't have Palomalu back there anymore. Stopping the run like he was able to when he was not hurt. They don't have those guys anymore.
The most.
Their main leader was watching up in the booth.
The most vivid memory that I'll have of this game is my buddy Joe texting me going, "Jacksonville 21 points in Pittsburgh. What is going on?" And I'm like, the Jaguars are a better team. I wasn't surprised by that, but it was funny to watch his reaction. And I called and we talked a little bit on the phone, but Jacksonville had control of this game. But that's another thing that I want to bring up with Mike Tomlin, the fourth down calls. Now, for those of you that don't know out there because you watch football but you don't know the intricacies of it, I'm going to give you inside the coach's locker room here, or the coach's office here, okay? Maybe that's what we'll call this, the coach's office. All right, let me let you in. There isn't a fourth down call, whether it's a fake, a two-point conversion play, which I'll count in the fourth down category because it's immediate change. A fourth down call, a two-point conversion play, or a fake, field goal or punt, or even a block, field goal or punt, that doesn't go through the head coach's headset first. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Do we have the thumbs up? So, Todd Haley being fired, those calls were not Todd Haley's fault. Okay? Let me rephrase that. They're Todd Haley's fault, but the decision to go for it on fourth down, which is really where I have the criticism, okay? The call, you blame on Haley. The decision to go for it, you blame on Tomlin. I'll give an example. You kick an onside kick. If you guys want a clinic on how to coach when you're down 2 scores, now they didn't win, but I want you to do me a favor. I want you to put in the 1975 AFC Championship game, Raiders at Steelers. They're down 16-7 with 3 minutes to go and 2 timeouts. They decide to kick a field goal to make it 16-10 and then go with an onside kick. And they didn't get it. They stop the Steelers. They complete a pass to the Pittsburgh 3-yard line or 7-yard line. The guy slipped. I still think Branch made it out of bounds, but they ruled him inbounds and time ran out and the Raiders lost. But they were almost in position to win that game. That's how you manage down 10. You need a field goal somewhere. You can save infinite time off the clock by kicking the field goal. Granted, there's no guarantee you're going to make it, But if Boswell misses a 30-yard field goal, you got bigger problems, right? You kick the field goal, then you go with the onside, then you use your timeouts, and then you go for broke at the end of the game. That's what Bill Belichick does. That's what good coaches do. Mike Tomlin has never made the intelligent call. That's a bad way of putting it. The right call, I think, would be a better way of putting it. He's made a lot of intelligent calls in his coaching career, but he's never made the right call at the crucial moment. And I've followed Tomlin's career ever since he was a DB's coach in Tampa Bay, and a D coordinator. He's just never made the right call at the right time. He's made a lot of smart calls. You're like, oh, that was really smart. But there's a difference. End of game situations. It's what cost Tom Coughlin his coaching job. End of game, end of half moments, that wins football games. You've got to make the right call there. And he just doesn't, traditionally.
Tomlin has never been a great game clock manager.
No.
He reminds me a lot when he's trying to manage the clock. He reminds me a lot of Andy Reid. That's
a good way of putting it. That's a really good way of putting it. So Pittsburgh's out. It's a Cinderella story in the championship game. Let's go to the NFC game because I know everyone's talking about this. And Eric, I'll just give you a brief synopsis. I had a friend over. We were playing Risk, and then we were watching the game, Risk on the computer, Xbox, which he won, which I'm mad about. But anyway, I digress. I love Risk. But I didn't use my strategy. I should have used my strategy. But again, I'm getting off topic. So I'm making dinner. We're watching the game. We're talking back and forth. And it's a great game. Fourth quarter was full of action, going back and forth. And I remember thinking to myself when the announcers are sitting there going, oh, this thing's over. And I'm like, it's not really over. I know they don't have any timeouts, but if they can get a ball to the 40-yard line to Diggs or Diggs or whoever, and they could step out of bounds at the 40, that would leave about 12 seconds. You can run another play and get to the 35-yard line, 30-yard line and kick the game-winning field goal. Like, this isn't over. And then lo and behold, they throw that out, pass. Diggs catches it, and that Saint whiffs him, and I'm like, get out of bounds. What are you doing? Oh, God, there's no one there. Go, 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 go. Like, it was amazing to watch it take place, but I didn't feel like there was a sense of hopelessness for Minnesota, even though they didn't have timeout, just because of where they were on the field. I didn't expect that ending. Getting a walk-off touchdown, that was unbelievable. And I don't know what else to say to ML Williams, I think his name, or LM Williams, or whatever his name is. Michael Williams. Dude, you tackle what you see.
Yeah.
What was he doing? He not only Supermaned it, but his head was facing on the turf. He had no idea where Stephon Diggs even was in his tackle attempt. And everybody's trying to excuse this, and I'm looking at this going, no, you hit what you see and you see what you hit. Even if you leave your feet. He just, I don't know. I've never seen.
You got to give him credit for facing the media and asking questions.
Oh, no kidding.
Rookie. So definitely hats off to him for doing that, because there's a lot of guys, rookies, veterans, who would have probably just ducked out of there, never to be heard from again until
right.
Camp, so.
And here's what I like about it. As bad of a play as that is, and make no question about it, that was one of the worst end of game tackles I've seen in a long, long time. But if ever. But facing the media tells me that this kid is going to remember this, and I promise you it's a mistake that will never happen a second time.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, as that play was happening, I thought instantly back to another wild card team. Only the wild card team had done it to the home team. But I thought instantly of an end-of-game touchdown that beat another Hall of Fame quarterback, advancing the team wearing purple to the AFC Championship game. I thought instantly of the Ravens' victory in Denver over Peyton Manning.
Jacoby Jones.
Yep.
Which is funny you bring that up. was Joe Flacco, and I either sent this to you or I told you this over the phone. Joe Flacco is one of two quarterbacks since 2002
Yep.
not named Brady, Peyton, or Ben to be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The other one is Rich Gannon.
Yeah.
Other than that, since 2002, it's been one of three guys. And if Brady wins it, or if Brady wins the AFC Championship game, it's going to be another line in that for 2018, Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
It is.
Absolutely crazy.
It is. Well, what was your look? I heard a lot of people compare this to the 75 Hail Mary game between the Vikings and Cowboys, and I can't disagree with that. I thought it was a wild game.
Well, I mean, as far as excitement level goes, there was really only one other play in my watching history that comes close to what they did. Because it's never happened, it never happened before this, and it hasn't happened after this. But the pure joy and excitement of Devin Hester returning the opening kickoff in the Super Bowl for a touchdown, it just made the Midwest just go nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, that right there to start out the game. And everybody talked about him. He was a rookie. Everybody talked about him. They're like, oh, are they going to kick to Hester? Vinatier, he never kicked it in the air to Hester after that. He learned his lesson.
He did. All right, we're going to do our reviews. All right. As you guys plainly saw, that is the New England Patriots at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars to kick off championship weekend, which I think is going to be a really great game. If you don't mind, Eric, I'm going to take this one. I'll give you the Vikings-Eagles game, okay? For me, the keys to this game are really, really simple. For Jacksonville, can you run the football between the tackles? Can you convert third down and short? And can you get Tom Brady into third and long situations and then get off the field? If they do those three things, they have a better than average chance of winning. They probably will win. For New England, it's really simple. Stick with the process. Be patient. And defensively, wait for Bortles to make a mistake and capitalize. So I see this game breaking down a simple way. I think it's going to be 13-7 in the fourth quarter with about 7.5, 6 minutes to go. Jacksonville's going to be driving. They're going to be at the 25-yard line. And I think Blake Bortles is either going to throw a pick or he's going to fumble. I think New England is going to drive up the field, and with about 1:30 to go, they're going to kick a field goal to make it 16-7, and that's going to be your final. I think it's going to be a low-scoring slugfest. I think it's going to be New England in the weather. I think Bortles is going to make that mistake that's going to end up ending the game, and I think it's going to be New England winning the AFC Championship game 16-7, advancing to the Super Bowl. I think a lot of people are going to walk out of here going, okay, that Jacksonville team was really great, and they absolutely deserve to be there. And, man, Tom Brady escaped. Because Jacksonville can do those things we talked about, pressure up the middle, contain the end, and certainly they have the ability to stop the passing game. This is going to come down to a low-scoring defensive play in the fourth quarter that's going to turn the tide. And I think everyone's going to be expecting that to be Jacksonville, but I think it's going to end up being New England. I got the Patriots winning 16-7. Your turn.
Interesting. To me, the way that both teams played outside of defense, and I'm just going offense, yes, Bortles, doesn't compare at all to Tom Brady, but they play similar styles. I think they got a better running game than the Patriots. And I say similar styles because they got that one home run hitter, whether that's either Cooks or Gronk. Okay, just like the Jaguars have Marquise Lee or whoever's balling that day. Weather's not going to be that bad. As of right now, it's going to be 46 and mostly cloudy. Doesn't look like there's going to be any precipitation in the forecast. Now, for me, there's going to be a lot of dinks and dunks in this game, and you're going to see Brady go deep one time each quarter, just to lighten up that defense or that Jacksonville defense. Ramsey or Bouye is going to be on Cooks, and whoever the other quarterback is on, they're going to have to be on point all day because I know they're not going to guard Gronk. So it might be Hogan. Probably not going to be Amendola, only because he's lined up in the slot. He's very shifty. He can get away really quickly. So that's going to be who the Jaguar cornerbacks are lined up on. You're going to see a deep pass to Cooks, whether it hits or not, is to be seen. With New England, how they attack that Jacksonville defense, Jacksonville is not going to get beat on the deep throw. Okay, not like they did against Roethlisberger. Sorry, not going to happen. They're going to keep everything in front of them. The Patriots should have Gillislee and Burkhead available for this game, along with Lewis and White. So who gets those carries is most likely going to be Burkhead, but I won't be surprised if there's two guys mainly between the 20s and then Gillislee in the red zone. I actually think because the Patriots defense is worse than Pittsburgh's, I think it's going to be a little bit more high scoring. I'm looking at a 31-23, 31-27 Patriots win. And I'm going with the Patriots. The Jaguars are 1-10 against the Patriots all time. 1-10. The last Belichick led New England team with Blake Bortles as the quarterback was a 51-17 New England win.
Yep.
So whether or not you like history, whether or not you think that's relevant or not, Jacksonville's only beaten the Patriots one time. So take that as you will. I think that the Jaguars will score the points. I think they're going to have a way on offense, but I do fear, like you mentioned, with the Jaguars drive in the fourth quarter at the 20 or 25, that he throws a crucial interception.
Yeah.
And that's why I have New England winning. Now, if Jacksonville pulls the upset, I mean, kudos to them. Like, I'll be the first to tip my hat, to stand up, cheer, congratulate, whatever. Because they've had one heck of a season.
Yeah.
And don't take this for granted either. The Giants beat the Patriots twice in the Super Bowl. Who was their head coach?
Tom Coughlin.
Who is in the front office of the Jacksonville Jaguars right now?
Tom Coughlin.
There you go.
Yep.
He knows how to beat Brady and Belichick in a football game.
A big game.
I heard after Jacksonville was up 21-0, I heard people who were sitting close by to Coughlin in the press box when Jacksonville was up 21-0, ripping the team to shreds under his breath because he knows that they can play better. And I can't imagine what was coming out of his mouth when two fourth-down passes were being thrown for touchdowns against that defense, because you know far and wide that he was probably in that team's ear either on the plane or when they got back into practice a couple days later.
Oh, yeah.
Don't get me wrong. They're going to play some sound defense against New England, but for some reason, Belichick and Brady are one heck of a duo. I mean, they're going to go down as one of the greatest, and this can continue that. But I think part of me thinks that if they lose this game, I end of that New England dynasty.
Okay, Eric, NFC Championship game. Minnesota Vikings against the Philadelphia Eagles. I'll just say this. The Minnesota Vikings have not won a conference championship game since beating the Los Angeles Rams in 1976, 24-13. They lost in 77. They lost in 87. They lost in 98, sorry. They lost in 2000. They lost in 2009. After going 4-0 in championship games, they're now 0-5. Take it away.
Yeah, the Vikings don't have history on their side if what Anthony is saying is any indication. Minnesota has only has very, very limited amount of wins when it comes to their playoff history, especially after they moved into a dome. Like, the Vikings haven't been to a Super Bowl since they moved from the outdoors. Everything could change on Sunday if they pull out a win in Philadelphia. I actually expect this to be the lowest scoring game of the day. Minnesota's got a great defense. Philly's defense has showed up majority of every year, except the Kansas City game, except the Seattle game, and I know they lost another one throughout the way, but their defense has pretty much been their main constant during the season for them. And they used it against Atlanta, and they're hoping to use it against the Vikings, because this is going to be a barn burner as far as the way defenses go. And I want to ask the Ram fans out there, and I hope you post it, but I'm curious who you guys are rooting for. Keenum or Foles? Both wore Ram uniforms. Both are starting in a championship game. Hope this gives you guys hopes, because to me, I think Goff can be better than both of them combined. But as far as the game goes, Minnesota, it's simple. You're outdoors. It's going to be sloppy conditions. Rain's in the forecast, but I hear it's going to be about 51, overcast with some rain. They've had some rain there throughout the week, so I know snowstorm has moved in, so when that melts, obviously. But I'm sure they got the tarp on the field, so hopefully that keeps the ground a little bit drier for them, for both teams, that is. Minnesota on their side of the ball, keep using Murray and McKinnon the way you have been. Thielen needs to get separation as he has been all year. He's a very, very great story this year out of Mankato State, who went undrafted. And that defense just needs to keep playing the way with the way they do. And I think that defense can create a couple of turnovers on Foles. On Philadelphia's side of the ball, but get Jay Ajayi going. I think they need to do as much as they can to keep the run game alive, because that's one aspect Minnesota can take away. And if they take it away, Foles has to beat them through the air. Foles will not beat them through the air. And if he has to beat them through the air, then throw the ball to Zach Ertz. Just feed him the ball. Maybe even throw it to the number 2 tight end as well over there. I believe it's Brett Selleck. And then get Alshon Jeffrey involved. Try and get out of the war involved. I know Xavier Rhodes is going to take one of those guys away. So Philadelphia just needs to find the one guy who Minnesota can't cover and just feed him the ball, and then give it to Ajayi, whether it's screen passes or running the football. That's the only way that I see Philadelphia winning. I see Minnesota pulling this game out 24-20, and Minnesota's going to go home and host the Super Bowl.
So for me, this is really the Viking fans' ultimate ha-ha moment to me. I have not picked the Vikings pretty much all year long. I've not been on their bandwagon. And ever since I picked them, they haven't lost. And I've stopped picking against them after they beat the Rams. I think they lost one game since then, if that's correct.
Yeah, I think it was the Carolina game.
Yeah. For Philadelphia, stop it. Stop with this. Nick Foles is a former Ram, and he's led the Eagles to the conference championship game. Stop it. Stop it. Carson Wentz got this team here. All he did was make sure the ship didn't sink against some really crappy opponents. And then in the playoffs, the defense and Sarkisian got them here. Not Nick Foles. Now, I like Nick Foles. I liked him when the Rams picked him up. I thought it was an upgrade from Sam Bradford. And he's capable. But we're acting like Nick Foles has been the starter since week friggin' 1. And it's just not true. So, I'm getting a little tired of hearing that all the time. It's because it's factually inaccurate. Yes, Nick Foles is the quarterback of the Eagles right now in the conference championship game. But Nick Foles did not get them here. The Eagles' defense beat the Oakland Raiders. Nick Foles beat the New York Giants. They did not beat the Dallas Cowboys, and their defense beat the Atlanta Falcons as well as the Falcons' coordinator Sarkisian, as I made clear. So Philly's got a real problem. They're looking at this situation going, well, we got to do something. There's a lot of pressure on this defense. And for you old-time Ram fans, do you remember 1974? Rams limp into the championship game with an okay quarterback named Harris, a really good running game, and a defense that was legit. How'd that work out? I say the same score. It's going to be rainy. It's going to be sloppy, so I agree with you. It's going to be low scoring. I think the keys to this game are really simple. As they were for Minnesota last week, and I was right, Latavius Murray, Latavius Murray, Latavius Murray on offense. Got to get him the ball so you can set up your play action with Case Keenum. Defensively, they have a Pro Bowler at every level. And at every level, those guys need to show up. Xavier Rhodes going to shut somebody down, then he better shut somebody down. Their two safeties, the Eraser and Sajeho, I think is his name. I'm probably saying that wrong. Those guys are top. They are the best safety tandem in football. I will put them over Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas right now. Any day, all day, every day. And then you've got the interior defense, and you've got Barr at linebacker. They do what they do. Nick Foles is going to turn the ball over, and there's going to be problems. This game will be 7-3 Vikings at halftime, and the Vikings will win this game 14-10. They are clearly a team of destiny. I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair. I think it's going to be a tight game. I'm not going to necessarily say Foles is the reason they lose. I just think the Vikings out-defense Philadelphia in a really tough, gritty, sloppy football game that's going to be fun to watch and is probably going to go down as one of the more entertaining conference championship games in a long, long time because of the fact that it's the Vikings and Eagles, two teams no one saw coming. And I agree with you. The Vikings will go home to host the Super Bowl, and they'll be playing against the New England Patriots. So that's my prediction, 14-10 Vikings. Now, I have two questions for you. I'll answer them as well. Question number 1. Should Mike Tomlin be fired? Go.
No. Simple answer. I'm going to keep it simple. He is one of the, he's got, right now at the same time, through 11 years, as what Bill Cowher had. Through 11 years, he's got more wins than Bill Cowher. They've all had the same amount of Super Bowls. I think guys like playing for Mike Tomlin. I think he's a player's coach. He wins a lot in Pittsburgh, and that's what you need to do in that city. They love their football. They're a football town first. They will always be a football town. I don't care what the Penguins do. I don't care what the Pirates do. It's a football town. They love their Steelers. I know they're never going to get the 70s back. Or, get a team like that going. But, they have the makings with 3 superstars on their offense in Brown, Bell, and Roethlisberger. I think it's tough for me to say, but I think 2 out of the 3 are going to go to the Hall of Fame. But that's yet to be seen. One's making his case for, top 5 wide receiver of all time. But no, I don't think Tomlin should be fired. It came out today and I'm glad it came out today because it's something that we can talk about, but they need a new offensive coordinator. Todd Haley has not worked out. I mean, he's had good offenses. It just doesn't translate well to the postseason. This postseason, you need to be able to get those fourth downs. You can't always go for the home run on fourth down. You need to use Ben's size. Okay, sneak them fourth and inches, 4th and 1. Don't toss it to Le'Veon Bell with a quick defense. You know, they're going to learn from that. And I think if Tomlin gets the right guy in as offensive coordinator, that can happen. I think they just need to make a few personnel changes in the coaching ranks, but not the head coach. Not at this time. They've never had a losing record with Tomlin. I think that shows a lot of what Tomlin is about. They consistently make the playoffs. They have a respected front office. I'm not saying it's well liked, but I'm saying respected. They go out and get players to fill holes. They draft well. Tomlin's part of all of that, and we'll see how much more he has left in the tank. I think he's got quite a few more years, but it's why Pittsburgh doesn't go through head coaches like a team like the Browns. They've had this. I can name 3 head coaches. I don't know how many they've had in their history, but they had Chuck Knox for a long time, followed by Bill Collins for a long time, followed by Mike Tomlin for a long time. That's consistency. They won as well. I mean, yeah, there were some bad Steelers teams, but they won. They won consistently as well. Tomlin isn't going anywhere anytime soon. I don't care what some of the I want to call them boosters, but it's not college. I don't care what some of their other people said about we're gonna lobby for coaching change. Go right ahead, lobby. Yeah. It's not gonna happen. The Steelers don't listen to outside figures.
Well,
when it comes to coaching decisions.
First of all, it was Chuck Noll, not Chuck Knox. Chuck Knox coached the Rams. But
Chuck Noll, sorry.
I know what you're saying. Do I think Tomlin should be fired? No, but I cannot get over one thing. You're going to blame Todd Haley for this loss? His offense scored 42 friggin' points. Where's the finger not being pointed to the defense where you allowed Blake Bortles to look like Tom Brady-esque, your words, not mine, and score 45 points on your defense? Haley wasn't the problem. Tomlin's lost the locker room. The players don't respect him. A lot of the players don't even like him anymore. Villanueva being one of them, although he's too classy to come out and admit it. Ben Roethlisberger's retiring at the end of this year. I will be shocked if he comes back wearing a Steeler uniform. So now you fired your OC for your quarterback who isn't returning. That's really good management of your team and really having a good pulse on your guys. And I'll be shocked if Le'Veon Bell's wearing a Steeler uniform next year. Because the man's going to go get paid unless they franchise tag him. Which I think somebody might turn around and go, okay, we'll give you a first-round pick for Le'Veon Bell. Thank you for paying his salary this year. We'll take him. You can franchise him all you want. Somebody comes and gets him, right? Because he is a restricted free agent under the franchise rule this year, correct?
No, he is not restricted.
He's not restricted. Okay. Well, then you're going to have the same problem with Le'Veon that you had this year. And I think it's real dirty what they're doing to Le'Veon Bell. He's a running back. He's not a quarterback. He doesn't have the same protection. Okay? The tread on that tire wears out a lot faster than the tread on a QB tire. And you're using him up, preventing him from getting his big payday. Just another reason to hate the Pittsburgh Steelers, in my opinion. Should Mike Tomlin be fired? No. You have no, even if he has lost the locker room. He made it to the playoffs with a 12-4, 13-3 record, whatever it was. It's the same reason I said you can't fire Marvin Lewis. You can't fire a guy that took you to the playoffs, unless you're the San Diego Chargers. You think it's a good idea to fire Marty Schottenheimer after a 14-2 season. But that's widely reviewed as repulsive and not okay. So, I don't think you can fire Mike Tomlin, but as long as the Steelers keep conducting themselves this way, I think they're going to create a lot more enemies than they are going to fan base. And they've lost a lot of their fan base. And that was evident early on this year. Now, some of them may have come back because of the winning, because fans are fickle, but there's a lot of people that were upset with Mike Tomlin and the way he tried to make himself look like he was bigger than the movement, bigger than the team. There's been a lot of animosity towards the way Mike Tomlin will handle Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, and then turn around and tell Ben Roethlisberger, don't quarterback sneak it or you'll be punished. Meanwhile, Antonio Brown could throw away, he could throw around water buckets and all this other crap, and it's totally cool. He can go on Facebook and make stupid comments like he did prior to the championship game last year, and it's totally cool. But Ben Roethlisberger sneezes, and he's going to get fined, and there's a consequence. Like, I think that's wearing thin with everybody within and without of the organization. I think there's a reason people want them out, or want him out. But I don't think you have any justification at the moment to do so. And I don't think after a first losing season, if he does have one, whether that's 7-9 or 8-8, which isn't a losing season, I don't think that's justification either to fire him. I think you're stuck with this dog for a while. And if the dog eventually stops hunting, then you fire it. But in the meantime, you make sure that dog don't hunt no more before you cut that one loose. Make sense?
Makes sense.
So you mentioned the end of the Patriots dynasty. I don't normally agree with Mike Davicek, I think is his name, but I agree with him here. I agree with his bold prediction. I think regardless of a Patriots Super Bowl victory or a conference championship or Super Bowl defeat, Daniels is going to Indy. Patricia is going to, where's he rumored to go? Detroit. And I think Bill Belichick goes to the New York Football Giants. I really do. If he doesn't retire. I don't foresee him hanging up the headset just yet because I think he knows right now his legacy's tied to Tom Brady. And I think that there's more than a crack in the foundation of that Patriot organization. I think the things come tumbling down, and they're just trying to tell everyone there's nothing to see here. We're all good and gravy. This is the end of it. Win or lose, you're going to see this thing get dismantled. And you may even see Tom Brady, in all of his stubbornness, he's going to stick it out. But, people like to call him the greatest of all time. Let's see what Tom Brady does without Josh Daniels, which I know he's done before in the past, but without Bill Belichick, without the supporting cast around him that he's had. The Patriots are old. You've got their quarterback's 40 years old. You've got a wide receiver with concussion histories, another wide receiver that's old. You've got a tight end with a back problem. You've got linebackers in their 30s, corners in their 30s. This is not a young football team. And they have nothing on the depth chart to replace any of it. It's a lot like the San Diego Chargers. There's a question that I'm going to answer, and then I'll let you chime in on it. Why are the Patriots so reviled? And I heard stupid comments like, well, people are jealous. And it's because the Patriots win. And it's because of this. And then the fourth one was, and they perceive them as cheating. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Let's look at the Patriots' history. 1982, snowplow game. They cheated. They broke the rules. They used a convict to clear the field, which was against NFL violations, to kick a game-winning field goal to get themselves in the playoffs. They cheated. The financial scandal of Sullivan in 1987 that carried through 89 until he was forced to sell the team in 91. He was embezzling money from the league. He was cheating. Then, the hiring of Bill Belichick. They illegally contacted a coach who was under contract without asking for permission. That's what caused the rift between Parcells and Belichick. Okay? They stole him from New York and took him by cheating, breaking the rules. Then they gave up a couple of draft picks, but they got Bill Belichick. Spygate. Don't tell me everyone does Spygate. Don't tell me that. Because if everyone did it, someone would have been caught besides New England. There would be more than one team that was busted for illegally videotaping walkthroughs prior to big games. I'm sorry. You have 32 teams, and supposedly they've been doing it for decades, and you're telling me that New England was so bad at it that they're the only team in NFL history to be caught? Bull stick. They cheated. Then there was another one before Deflategate. What was the other one?
Deflategate, Spygate, New Orleans was Bountygate.
Oh, well, no, I'm sorry. Before Spygate, in the mid-90s, they had the sexual misconduct charges against the organization in the locker room for the female reporter.
Misconduct gate?
You can call it misconduct gate if you want. That was in the early 90s. That was like 92, 93. That was just before Parcells got there. Or it might have been when Parcells was there, actually, mid-90s. This is an organization that is constantly cheating. And people get tired of it. They get tired of it because their teams don't do it. And you know why I know other teams don't do it? Because they don't get busted for it. And you're not going to convince me that New England is so crappy at cheating that they're the only ones that get caught. Bullstick. Calling it like I see it. That's reason number one people hate the New England Patriots. Reason number two, the changing of the rules. The Tuck rule, the rule no one heard of. Your entire dynasty was propped up by a fake rule that's never been interpreted that way before and never been interpreted that way since, costing the Raiders a championship game appearance and thrusting New England into the dynasty they are. Sorry. Your whole fantasy, your whole dynasty is propped up on a fantasy. That's what I tried to say. One phantom call that should never have been called, and it set the course for what we're on, what we've been forced to endure. Number three, running up the score. Now there's a good way to do things and there's a classy way to do things. You look at Sean McVay this year, pulling his starters in the third quarter, pulling his starters in the second, early in the fourth quarter once the team goes up 51-10 or 51-17, whatever the score is at the time. Okay, Don Shula. Are you kidding me? Dan Marino could have thrown for 6,000 yards in 1984. Dan Marino threw for 4,000 or 5,000, whatever friggin' yards it was, playing halves of football games all year long. I think he played 8 total full games. The other 8 games he played 2 quarters and was done. Why? Because Dan Marino and Don Shula and the Dolphin organization is classy. The New England Patriots and Bill Belichick and Tom Brady are stat whores. They're stat whores. They want all of it. Not some of it. They want all of it. They don't take their foot off the throttle, even when it's supposed to be kosher to do so. And when you run up scores on people like Joe Gibbs, like Bill Parcells, and you go down the list, there's a line there you don't cross. There's a coaching etiquette there. And don't tell me, oh, if you will stop it. Because I'll tell you something. It's a good thing it wasn't against me. Because I'd have called timeout, I'd have called everyone over, and I would have said, here's the defensive play. 3-4, break Tom Brady's leg at the kneecap. I don't care if it's a running play. I want all 11 of you to go to Tom Brady, get him in a pile, and bust the leg. Now run up the score, dick. That's what I do. That's old school 1950s football right there. You want to cross that line, there's a consequence for crossing it, and I hope you're willing to bear it. But nowadays, people don't do that. Right? Now it's, oh, you shouldn't do that. Well, all the Patriots do is get slaps on the wrist while everyone else plays by a different set of rules. That's number 3. And I think the fourth one is fatigue. You know, even when the Bulls were winning, and people were getting tired of the Bulls winning, there was still a sense of rooting for that 6th ring. The Celtics, there was a sense of rooting for Boston. Dallas was America's team for a reason. For 20 years, from 67 to 87, they were, I guess that would almost be 30 years, they were phenomenal. They were always winning. And while fatigue set in, people could stomach it, right? The 49ers, people could stomach. They wanted to see Steve Young win that 5th Super Bowl for the franchise. People were genuinely happy to see the Niners back in the Super Bowl when they played Baltimore. But with New England, the way in which they win, how the media constantly shoves them down your throat, how they get... I never remember the 49ers getting... I mean, I used to joke that the Niners used to get way more covers than everyone else. And there's a reason I talk about the go-to 6. But it's ad nauseum with New England. Every single week, is the dynasty dead? This is why they're the greatest. How many times in the preseason did you hear any other team get coverage besides the New England Patriots? And the 16-0 bullcrap talk that was being talked about. Like a gnat in your ear on every single sports network all freaking preseason long. Didn't matter what the Rams did against the Raiders. Didn't matter what the Rams did against the Cowboys, what the Bears did, how Trubisky looked. Didn't matter. Because it was the Patriots 16-0, the Patriots 16-0, the Patriots 16-0, the Patriots 16-0. The Seahawks, the Patriots 16-0. Like, it's just fatigue. Because they're constantly in your face all the time. It's not complicated to figure out why people can't stand the Patriots. They're reviled for those really 4 reasons. Anyway, that's my soapbox. You go.
I got nothing to add. I mean, you know, all things come to an end. So we'll be talking about New England being the summer dweller soon. And we'll be talking about somebody else winning the division for the first time in forever, what it seems. So, you know, last time the Patriots didn't win the division was 2008, to be honest with you. They didn't make the playoffs either. That was the year Brady got injured, and they lost based on, I want to say a tiebreaker, kicked them out. But, you know, it'll be interesting to see the direction they go, who they hire, who the quarterback is, and whatnot. But, you know, it'll be the day's coming soon where the reign of New England football is going to be over, and we'll be talking about other teams. So,
and I guess my challenge to the Ramley out there, if it is us, if we're lucky enough to be that next team, let's do it better than everyone else. Let's remember our humble beginnings while embracing our rich and luxurious past, moving forward, because the Rams, we've had some dark times. We've had some great times. And if we are lucky enough to be the next dynasty, I want us to be the fan base everyone follows. You're going to have douche canoes in every fan base. But if by and large people can say, I went and saw the Rams play, and man, I had the greatest time with their fans. They were giving me a hard time, sure, but it was fun. It was in jest. And you know what? They were classy. That's who we are. That's how we should be remembered. If we're lucky enough to be in that position, let's do it better than everyone else.
Do it the right way.
Do it the right way. Do it the Ram way. So, without further ado, it's been great doing the show. We'll see you in 2 weeks when we do the Super Bowl preview. We're taking Pro Bowl week off. I'm Anthony.
And I'm Eric.
And go Rams!